Hey guys, LMC here, and today I just wanted to talk briefly about a topic that kind of like has been on my mind a bit as I've been learning to ride, and that's lane filtering or lane splitting. Now here in Victoria, the legality around it is really grey. You aren't allowed to lane split, that's quite clear, but they're quite vague about whether or not you're allowed to lane filter. The difference is that lane splitting is moving through moving rows of traffic, whereas lane filtering is what I'm about to do now, which is come up to the lights and move through a few stationary cars, like this. So this is filtering, so I'm told. But, and then so in Victoria, the moment, see like this Hyundai in front of me with this stupid sticker on the back, the moment that car starts moving, if I was to overtake him, split through the lanes, I'd be splitting instead of filtering because he's technically moving, and then that's illegal. But lane filtering when people are stopped isn't clearly illegal, so it's a little grey, but I've had people give me different opinions on that. The instructor who taught me how to learn to ride the bike when I did my learner's course, he was like, nah, you just can't do any of it, it's just all illegal, don't do it. But I kind of feel like he was probably coming at it from encouraging everyone to be super safe. But that kind of comes to the point of the video I'm trying to make here, is that I don't think filtering, what I did just then, is unsafe. In fact, I think it's safer. So when I was just when I was just a car driver and I'd never ridden a bike before, I used to see motorbikes, filter, do what I just did then. And I used to think that basically they did it because they can, that it was basically they were doing it because they could, they wanted to get up to the front of the lights because they could, and that meant that they got home faster, blah, blah, blah. But I thought it was mostly just like I want to do it because I can, and blah, blah, blah. But, and I'm sure there is an element of that, no doubt about it. But what I've come to realize since starting to ride myself is that it's a bit more complicated than that. The main reason I filter, at least, is actually for my own safety. And I know that kind of sounds a bit unintuitive if you don't ride a bike, but let me explain. So, if you're filtering through traffic, there are two main reasons why it adds to your own safety on the road. And they're both to do with the fact that you get away from the traffic, or you remove yourself from the traffic. So if you're filtering through lanes, there's no one behind you. And in actual fact, if there is someone behind you, then it has to be another bike, right? Because there isn't going to be a car trying to squeeze between lanes of traffic. Which means that if you're in the middle of a lane filtering, there's no possibility for a car to come from behind you and rear-end you. Now, the counter to that is that if you're filtering lanes, then you kind of increase the likelihood that someone might pull out of a lane and cut you off. And that is true. But for me, I would prefer to risk that. Honestly, I would. Because that's happening in front of me. If I'm riding down the road and a car pulls out in front of me, or if I'm filtering through traffic and a car decides that they want to change lanes and they move out across the lines in front of me, that's happening in front of me, which means I'm more likely to see it coming, and I'm more likely to be able to deal with it. And that's because, one thing I've really come to notice when riding a bike is that cars actually have body language, much like humans do. So when you're riding along and you're looking at the cars around you, like humans, you can actually really, really well read their behavior, and you can tell when someone's going to do something before they do it. Now, I admit you can't do it all the time. So there are some cases where people will do stuff and you won't have seen it coming. And times like that, that's when accidents happen. But I reckon 7 times out of 10, you can nearly predict a car's behavior really, really well. You can see someone who's hovering around in the lane, you can see them being edgy or jumpy on the road, so it's really easy to predict if someone's going to do something stupid, which means that it's easier to deal with for you as a motorcycle rider. And of course, if it happens in front of you, then you're more likely to see it more quickly. Whereas if you get rear-ended, the chances of you seeing that coming as a motorcyclist are quite low, because the only reason you see it coming is if you happen to be looking in your rear view mirror or your side mirrors while you're aiming at traffic. But most of the time, I reckon if a motorcycle's getting rear-ended, they don't know about it. They don't know about it until they're on the floor, kind of thing. I reckon it would be really uncommon for a motorcyclist to see a rear end coming. And so that's the first thing. If you're filtering through traffic or sitting in between lanes, you remove that equation, you change that around. You reduce the likelihood of getting rear-ended. And the second reason I think filtering is safe, and pretty much the main reason actually, is because if I can get up to the front of the traffic lights, then once the traffic lights go green, I can get away from the traffic. In a matter of seconds, I can put 100 meters, 200 meters between me and all of the cars waiting at the traffic lights. And then that puts me out in a position on the road where there's just no one around me, and I can see everything. People are more likely to see me because I'm not hidden behind thick traffic. So it just really increases my safety, I reckon, because if, my bike, even though it's a basic bike, is, more powerful, it gets up and goes quicker than 50 or 60% of the cars on the road. Any bog standard kind of sedan, hatchback, people mover, family car, any of the kind of cars that basically make up 90% of the road traffic, all the basic cars, I am faster than all of them on this bike, without a doubt. So that just means once the light goes green, I can just get away from people so quickly, so quickly. And that is in my best interests, because I'm much less likely to get into trouble or to get into an accident if I'm on my own and I'm not sitting in the middle of traffic. So that's the reason I lane filter, and it really kind of opened my eyes to it once I started riding, because as I said, when I was just a car driver, I saw people filtering and I thought, oh, they're just dickheads, they're just dudes who want to get home faster, and they're being selfish, or they're just doing it because they can, and blah blah blah. And look, there is elements of that. I like the fact that I can get up and I get a little bit quicker, I get going more quickly, I get home sooner, all that sort of stuff. But the main reason is that I actually feel so much safer on the road if I filter through traffic. So that's interesting. Food for thought. I don't know, what do you guys think? If you're out there, if you ride, do you filter, do you split? I mean, here in Victoria, you're not allowed to split, at least not yet. They are talking about introducing it, actually. So there's a lot of discussion going on at the moment about introducing lane splitting and allowing motorcyclists to actually move through moving rows of traffic. But as of right now, as of shooting this video, it's still illegal. But as far as I'm concerned, filtering through traffic up to the front of the lights is legal. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you filter if you ride a bike? Do you think it's safer? Does it make you nervous? I mean, the first few times I did it, I was nervous. You're kind of going, because you're riding slowly, so you feel like you've got slightly less control over the bike because you're doing 20 k's an hour instead of 60. And you are riding between cars that are reasonably close to you, but there's plenty of room in some situations. But yeah, the first few times you do it, it is kind of nerve-wracking. And the thing that's kind of the scariest about filtering that I've found as an inexperienced rider is that the moment the traffic starts moving, you just shit yourself the first few times. If you're in between lanes and you're riding down the dotted line and you're riding up to a set of traffic lights and the traffic lights go green before you get to the front, which will happen a lot if you're a new rider like me, because I'm doing it slowly, so every now and then I don't make it to the front of the lights before they change. So if that happens to you and the traffic around you starts to move, that is a little bit scary, I'll be honest, because you're kind of like, where am I going to go? Where am I going to fit? And you just have to kind of get used to pushing in. And some cars don't like it, but at the end of the day, once the traffic starts moving, I mean, for legal reasons here in Victoria, you have to fall into the traffic. Otherwise, you start lane splitting, and then that's against the law. So... but also, once the traffic's moving, I do prefer to be back in line with the traffic, just to give myself some more room either side. I mean, maybe later on, when I'm more experienced again, I'll feel differently about that, and I'll be happy to sort of split through lanes, especially if it does become legal here in Victoria. Then I'll probably start doing more of it. But yeah, the first few times you do it, and the first few times that the traffic starts moving on you, it is a little bit nerve-wracking. I'll admit, I'm happy to admit that. But yeah, anyway, what do you guys think? Do you guys filter? I think you should, personally. If you've got a bike, I think you should. I think you're safer doing it. A lot of people will disagree with that. I've had a lot of friends tell me that that's just bullshit, that if you're riding between rows of traffic, you're just putting your life at risk. And my counterpoint to that is, well, I'm putting my life at risk just getting on the bloody bike. So me filtering through traffic is actually trying to take my life into my own hands. It's trying to take control of the situation. So that's why I do it. Anyway, just a short video. So I think that's an interesting topic. Anyway, if you've got any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. See ya.